Okay, well, according to my watch, we're very, very close to 11:30, so we'll go ahead and get started. I want to first start out and tell everyone on here thank you for the time that you're going to spend here, as well as if you spent any time with us over the last couple of weeks. This is our third webinar of the series, and it'll be the final webinar of this series. But I appreciate all the time that you've given us here, and I hope that you've gotten some value out of it. So let's go straight into uncovering some of the hidden features and some of the best ways that I have seen Microsoft Teams used. I do have Keely on the webinar as well, so she will be answering any questions or taking all the questions and getting them over to me at the end. I will have a question and answer time at the end.
Hello, everyone. Hope y'all are doing good today.
Okay, so let's go very quickly through the agenda. Of course, we're going to talk a little bit about who ComTech is, although very little, like the other webinars. We're going to give you guys a quick start guide for Teams. We're going to go through some of the basic pieces, which what I kind of call the basic pieces. We'll go through all these other different features. I'm not going to read through all of them because it doesn't make sense to read through and then go through everything again. I do want to highlight something here, though. So the picture in the back there, the background is that gentleman with kind of arms all over the place. These webinars that are talking about productivity and how to increase your productivity, that sort of thing, at least in my experience, have been a bit like that gentleman there, as far as overwhelming in the sense of you're getting hammered with a lot of different tools and techniques and that sort of thing. As you can see, I'm going to go over a lot of different things here in the next half hour. My point to this is don't try to not let yourself feel like you're getting bombarded. This webinar is recorded. So my suggestion is take one or two of these items that you hear about today, and over the next week or so, go and try to implement them. Go and try to implement them in Teams. Even if this is just your first kind of webinar with us and you're doing Teams, or you've never done Teams and you're just starting in Teams, then just take one or two of these pieces and just start trying to do that. Don't try to do all of it at one time, because if you will, then it's pretty much guaranteed that none of it will stick, and we're kind of right back to square one. So my point in all this is don't get overwhelmed. Just take it feature by feature. Say, hey, that's kind of cool. Let me try that. Go and try to put it into practice. And then go from there, go back to the recording, which we will send everyone, and you can watch that later. We will, of course, talk about the Tesla giveaway. We'll talk about that at the end. If you haven't heard of that, then definitely stick around to the end, because we are giving away a Tesla actually in 31 days, I believe. So 31 days, somebody will have a nice Christmas. ComTech, if you've watched any of the other webinars, you've seen me put this pretty much this same slide up here. It's just simply saying we're not really the new kid on the block. We've been around. This is our 30th year, and we've got a decent size of technicians, and we specialize in CPAs, lawyers, medical, nonprofit, local government. We go across the whole industry spectrum pretty much. So we're able to see what works in one industry and apply it to others and such. So I think that's an advantage. But again, we're not new. We've been around for quite some time. So the first piece here is I get often asked, and I know this is the end of the webinar series and the talking about the hidden features, but I still get asked, even when people make it through this entire webinar series, where do I start? what can I do today to get going? And Microsoft created a quick start guide for teams that goes through all of these different pieces about how to reply to a chat, how to change whether you're available or not, those types of things, just how to use Teams in a quick PDF document. So Keely, if you don't mind throwing that in the chat, that would be great. Let me know if you don't have it. I can get you the link. But there's just a PDF document. I recommend that document if you're starting out. Even if you're not starting out, there's probably a number of things in that document that you never knew were there. One of the first things that we'll talk about here is something that I actually didn't know was there until probably, I would say, 3 months ago, something around there. I have been using Teams for about 2 years and some change now, and I did not know anything at all about the navigation buttons up in the very top left of Microsoft Teams. There's a left and a right button. Now, what that does logically is it toggles back and forth from what you were doing, what you're currently doing, and then what you were previously doing. So if you're working on a document and someone messages you and you chat with them, you can just hit the back arrow and it'll go back to the document. It also works very, very well if you are chatting back and forth with multiple people. A lot of times I find myself in the middle of a team chat, so I'm chatting to a number of people, and then I have an individual chat, and then I have one more individual chat, and it's nice to just click one button and just flip between all of the different chats. Tabs. This is something that from my experience, I don't see utilized as much as I would like, or as much as I think is possible. And I think it can definitely help with productivity. So inside of a one-on-one chat or a team, either one, you have the ability, let me get my laser pointer here so you guys know what I'm talking about. You have the ability to add tabs inside of a chat. So these are actually tabs on our ComTech VoIP phone team. So we do business phones, and on that team inside of here, this is actually what it looks like. So number one is the post, which just means all of your chats. That's where all they go. Files, that's any files that directly relate to that department. So in this case, it would be the phone files. So that may be our porting documentation. That may be our help guides for our desk phones on how to use them, that sort of thing. Ports, that is nothing more than an Excel spreadsheet that shows the upcoming clients that are being ported into the system. So of course that document's sitting in SharePoint, but all of it's just sitting there and we all can update it all at the same time. Support documents, that is a little bit, you see the files are for the phone files or for the phone department. Support docs are all the support documents. Phone tests, that's just me playing around. Because I like to test things. I try to test, that's actually a project management system that I'm testing, and I'll test it. And if it's any good, I may put it in the next webinar series. And then the final two, home is nothing more than SharePoint. And then the ComTech VoIP training is all of our internal videos on Stream, on Microsoft Stream, which is like its own internal YouTube, which again, I'll go over that here in just a bit. Now, I went through a lot of that to a pretty detailed degree there, only to just show you what it looks like in real world operations. Flip that for yourself, for your business. Do you have any department specific needs like this? Do you guys have accounting departments? Do you have HR departments? Do you have sales departments that they have their own kind of area where they need their own documents? Maybe they need their own wiki where people can just update things. They can talk about, they can throw items in there saying, hey, we need to chat about this at the next meeting, that sort of thing. Another point I like to make is on the onboarding side. This is very, very nice. If I onboard a technician here at ComTech, obviously I'm going to put them through our training. I'm going to say, hey, we're going to do lots of VoIP training. So you're going to know how to provision a phone. You're going to know how to port a number. You're going to know how to do all these things. Well, if I add them into the VoIP team on Teams, then they'll have all of this information. So that allows me to say, hey, all you really have to do is, if you don't know how to do something, either message in the post, just put a chat out to the team saying, can somebody point me in the right direction? Or they can go over to the ComTech VoIP training and go into stream, and they'll be able to see all the videos of us doing that. So I'll go in as well here in just a little bit. I'll show you our stream. So announcements. This is something that I'm definitely not seeing utilized very often. And that is the ability to make an announcement, so make it bold, as well as make an announcement in multiple channels across multiple teams. So if you had, let's give that exact same example. Let's say I have a regular help desk here at ComTech, and I also have a help desk that's specifically designed for phones. If I want to let both of them know something, instead of putting one chat message in there in one team and then going to the other one and doing the same thing, instead I can go down here at the bottom left-hand side of pretty much any chat, and you'll be able to click that little A. And when you do that, up at the top, you can change it, and you can change it to an announcement. And then when you do that, you'll see up there also at the top right here, post in multiple channels. You can choose where you would like to post this. So it allows you as a manager or an administrator to be able to post and let people know across the board about a change in policy, or you're closing early, whatever it may be. Bookmarks. If you click on any message in Teams up in the, let me get my laser pointer again, up in the top right, you're going to have three little dots. When you click on those three little dots, one of the options is save this message. So a lot of times I'll be chatting back and forth with someone, and they'll say something about this is how you do this, or whatever it may be. And if I either need to go and save that because I want to go and make it a to-do, it's an item on my to-do list, or if I just say, hey, that's good information to have. Maybe a good example that I thought of earlier when I actually looked at my save pieces were how much in retirement, an employee asked me, how much does ComTech match for retirement, that sort of thing. So HR type stuff, but I didn't know. So I messaged HR, they told me. And when she responded back, I just simply saved that message. So if I ever get asked that question again, I can just say, here you go. Very, very similar to just simply taking an email, putting it in a folder for saving. Now, when I mention polls, most of the time when I explain this part, a lot of people say, I don't really see how that would exactly apply to us, but I urge you to give it a chance. So I'll give you a couple examples. Number one, if you send a poll out saying, where would you like to eat for Christmas lunch? If your company has a Christmas lunch, or they have a get together, or they're getting together after work. Another example that we used is we used it for a Halloween costume. You guys, I believe it was on the first webinar, we showed you the Halloween pictures from our company. We try to get everybody to dress up, and when everybody dresses up, we vote on the best costume, and then that person wins something. Well, what we were able to do is in Teams, I could just simply create a very quick poll. I mean, it takes no time, and everyone can submit their answers right there. And for me as an administrator, I don't have to go and tally up a whole bunch of emails saying, okay, this person voted for this person, that sort of thing. So it's very, very nice. And it's a very clear system to go, okay, the majority of people want to go here for dinner. The majority of people want this costume to win, whatever it may be. Another thing that I wanted to point out here is you actually see there's two different types of polls that I created. One is with an application called Poly, which is a free app that integrates directly with Teams. And then the one below that is Microsoft Forms, which is a little bit different. It's built into Microsoft. Still works very similar though. But with Poly, at least, I noticed that it was, and I'm going to try to use this more as I move forward, but you have the ability to make it to where people can respond anonymously. So they can, if you're a manager and you had, let's say you're doing year-end planning and you wanted to ask the entire team, hey, I want some honest feedback. What do you guys think? If you look at the 2020, if you look at 2020, what could we have done better as a company? Well, without the employees physically writing on a piece of paper and handing it to you or putting it in a basket, that sort of thing, you can certainly do that. But with this way, hopefully you'll get some honest feedback. It'll be in a quick fashion. And you don't see who it is, which is pretty nice. But then that, again, it's just another way to really keep in touch with your employees and try to get them talking so you can move in the right direction. Now, with Outlook to Teams and Teams to Outlook, so it goes both ways. Microsoft, I've got a feeling as we keep going on, they're going to integrate these guys even more. But as of right now, they're two separate applications, but you can make emails go into Teams and you can make Teams messages go back into Outlook. So on the left side of the screen, you're seeing, if you click on a Teams channel, again, if you click on the three little dots, you will see get email address. Now, you can take that email address and you can put it wherever you would like. If somebody sends an email to that, it goes directly into the Teams channel. An example, and I think I've given this on the previous webinars, but if you call our sales line here at ComTech, you leave a voicemail, it actually goes directly into that Teams channel for the sales team. The sales team will listen to that, and then they'll comment in there, hey, I've got this one, I called this, that sort of thing. So it's super, super nice. Again, you could do it with Outlook. You certainly could. But if you do it with Outlook, you end up with everybody having to click reply all. And I just think Teams has a much better way to do it. Share to Outlook, if you're clicking on any team chat, again, let's go back to that example I gave you earlier. Let's say I didn't save that message, but I wanted to save it in Outlook, the one about HR and retirement and such. I could just simply click, again, the three little dots, click Share to Outlook. It comes up with a screen, an email screen, and I can just type my own email in and then click send, and it sends me an email. So you do have the ability to go back and forth. If you have Outlook open, like I do all day, every day, because even though I chat a lot in Teams, I still have a lot of client interaction over in Outlook. If I am in Outlook, they made it very, very easy to just simply go to your calendar. If you have a newer version of Outlook, go to your calendar and just click New Teams Meeting. And all it really does is it creates a regular Outlook meeting, regular calendar item, but it puts a little bit of verbiage down there at the bottom with a link for Microsoft Teams. Now, this also, in saying that, you can send that to external users. You can send it to what they call guests, so they don't have to be inside of your organization. Now, if you do that, it would be very similar to a Zoom meeting. You don't, in my personal opinion, I've used it a little bit. I haven't used it a tremendous amount. I don't think that it has got to I don't think it's quite as easy for the end users as Zoom is, but they are getting there. But you definitely can bring a guest user into a Teams meeting, and it does work. Like I said, it can be a little bit clunky, but it definitely does work. So this is one of my, I would say one of my biggest tips. One of my tips that I've figured out have changed a good bit for me as I onboarding and training and that sort of thing for our techs. And that is, when you're in a meeting, you again hit the three little dots and you click start recording. Now it's one of the simplest things to do, just because just like Zoom or any of the other guys, it automatically starts recording. When you're done with the meeting, it stops recording. But what's interesting about it, and that this is why I wanted to flip over to our stream channel. This is what I mentioned at the beginning. Stream is an internal YouTube, for lack of better terms. It is all of the videos that you guys record in your team's channel. They go directly into stream, so they automatically get uploaded. Now, where is that nice? So it is nice when you're in a meeting. Let's use this as an example. On the left-hand side, you've got merge versus bundle. So this is a real live example. One of my techs called me and said, Ethan, we've got this new ticketing system, but I don't know what the difference is between merge versus bundle. It's just inside of our ticketing system. So I said, no worries. We jumped on a meeting and I clicked the record button and I said, okay, here's the difference between merge and bundle. You use this when you're merging, you use this criteria. When you use bundle, you use this criteria. Does that make sense? And he said, yeah, absolutely. That makes sense. I said, okay, great. In the meeting, well, what happens is that recording automatically goes to stream. All I have to do, and this is one extra step, but all I have to do is go into stream, make sure it gets categorized properly. So this one, I believe it went under tech training. Categorize it as tech training, make sure it's named merge versus bundle, click save, I'm done. Now, the next time I onboard someone and they say, hey, I don't really know the difference, I can tell them just go to stream and just type in merge and you'll see it. There's your explanation. So imagine if we take this back to your business. I was thinking about it. Imagine if you're a CPA or you're a medical office or whatever it may be, and you're training your own internal people on how to use your piece of software, why this policy is in place, whatever it may be. You have the video or you have the meeting. You're having the meetings now. Why not go ahead and record that meeting? And then that way you don't have to just keep repeating yourself. So hopefully that's a pretty big tip. That one we've started using just more and more just because it just makes sense. So the whiteboard feature from Microsoft, to my knowledge, is pretty new. If you're inside of a meeting, again, you share your screen, and on the right-hand side, you'll have an option that says whiteboard. Now, what that's going to look like is this right here. So you're going to have the option, you're going to have all your different colored pens, and then you can have text and you can add a sticky note to it. But what's interesting about that is if you have multiple users inside of a meeting at one time, everybody can share. on that same whiteboard. So everybody can be drawing on the same whiteboard, or they can put notes in, that sort of thing. If you're recording this meeting, then that recording also it's showing the whiteboard. So I can imagine where if you've got a tablet like I have and you need to show someone something, you can just take your pen out, start a meeting, go to the whiteboard feature, and then just simply draw out what you would like. And if it's something you want to record because you want to share it with other people, record it, it uploads to stream, and you always have it. And that sounds maybe a little bit crazy, or it would have last year, but now with a lot of us working from home, it's not as simple as being able to walk over to somebody's desk with a pen and paper and say, hey, this is what I'm trying to explain to you. So this feature works well. It's built right into Microsoft Teams, so definitely check that out. Final piece here that I want to mention is just as far as an individual chat, on an individual chatting basis, there's a few options here that I'm not sure everybody goes and really looks at or understands. So as you can see up there with Mike, on the right hand side, we've got those same three dots. And if you click that, you have some options here. Number one is mark as unread. So that's if you have, it's the exact same thing as Outlook. You have an email come in, you accidentally click it or whatever it may be, and you go, hey, I need to go back and look at that later. You can mark it as unread if you don't want to save it. You can pin and unpin your contacts. If you're like me, the majority of the conversations that I have are with a few people inside the organization. So I pin them at the top of my team. So that way I don't have to search for them. I can just grab them straight from the top. Mute, that's particularly handy. If you are in a team chat, or if you're in a chat with multiple different people and they're going on and on about something that you're not really involved in, or you're in the middle of something else, but you don't want to exit out of the chat completely because you want to be able to go back and look later. You can just simply click mute and it mutes the conversation so it doesn't keep dinging you, letting you know that there's a chat in there. Notify when available. I use that quite often. That is, if I go, so if you look on the left-hand side, right by everybody's picture, you'll see a little red dot beside Mike and a green dot beside Caitlin. What that means is it is reading their Microsoft calendar as well as reading what they have selected inside of Teams, whether they're available or they're busy, whatever it may be. So if I see that Mike is busy and I don't really want to bother him, what I have to tell him is really not that important. I can just click on the three dots, click notify when available. And when I do that, when he goes back green, whether that means he comes out of a meeting, so his Outlook switches him back to available, or if he actually manually switches himself back to available, then it'll let me know. It'll send me a chat just saying, hey, Mike's available. So I use that quite often. Now, if you want even more training, I can definitely get you guys these links. The general training and the FAQ, those are links that I haven't put out there, but I think Keely's already put the team's printable guide there. So I recommend that. Microsoft has just tons of training. If you have any questions, of course, reach out to me. I'm more than happy to answer anything or get you the answers. The Tesla giveaway, if you haven't heard about it, I strongly urge you to go out to comtechnc.com/Tesla. It's super, super easy to enter. We would absolutely love to give you a Tesla for Christmas. So it's there, and I can't urge you enough to go out there, especially watch some of the videos. Some of the videos the marketing guys are doing are, to me, I think they're hilarious. I think they're quite interesting. So, Keely, do we have any questions?
We did have a couple, and I've sent them to you in a chat, so they should
Okay.
be there for you to see, Ethan.
Okay. Let's see. So, okay, this is a good one. Is data stored forever in Microsoft Teams? So even when someone leaves? Well, Microsoft has pretty much become very clear on what their theory is of keeping data. And essentially their mindset is we're going to do the best effort, and that's pretty much it. You need to have a third-party backup system on your Teams, on your Outlook, that sort of thing. So they never say that they're going to keep the data forever. That's just not their policy. So my recommendation would be to have a third-party backup system for 365, just as an archive type purpose. I would recommend that. Second question is, would this replace a Zoom license? For, I assume, meeting with clients and such. It could. It definitely could. I would urge you to test it on yourself or call me. I'll be more than happy to test it. I'll be more than happy to send you a Teams link to your Gmail or something and let you see what the user experience is. Like I said, it's just, I don't think Microsoft's quite there yet on that. I know for us, obviously, we're still using Zoom for these webinars and such. It just seems to be easier, and it was designed for that. I think that Microsoft will definitely get there. I just don't think they're there just yet. Inviting guests to Teams, what type of functionality do they have? So I'm assuming you're talking about outside users. If you invite a guest to a meeting only, so just a meeting inside of Teams, then that guest, based upon your permissions and such you've given, they only have access to what is inside of that meeting. So that may be documents, that may be chats, whatever it is inside of that meeting, that's what they have access to. Now, you can invite external users to an actual team, so a team chat and such, and they only have access to those teams that you give them. That has limited functionality, and for obvious reason. Microsoft doesn't want you to just invite a bunch of guests and then have everybody doing it for free. So if you do that, you may need to get that person's a license if they're going to be in there for a long time. So an example where I see that sometimes used is maybe a construction contractor, something like that, a construction company, and they've got a couple different contractors. They're all in one team so they can chat. I've seen that before. And then where do you start? I think this is the last question that I see, and that is, where do you start using Teams if you've never used it in the past? I think I covered this, I believe, at the beginning, but that is that quick start guide. Look in the chat. Keely put in there. Definitely look at that quick start guide. Start with just a couple of chats, individual chats back and forth to people. Create one team. If you don't know what team to create, say, I've seen a lot of companies who say, hey, we're really not that big. I don't really think we have a sales department, a marketing department, whatever it may be. Create one company chat. Create one company team and just use it for announcements, that type of thing. Or use it for meetings. Again, record those meetings, and then that way you can have them. Another thing is Keely did post in the chat more Teams examples. So I did a webinar, I believe it was 1.5 years or so ago, that was explaining how I'm seeing Teams used. And that was, I don't remember how many examples I gave, but I gave a number of examples. So definitely look in there and do that. If you have any questions whatsoever, I'm always here. Shoot me an email, give me a call. I'll be more than happy to chat with you about Teams, and we can see what we can do to get you rolling and get you more productive in that application. Keely, are there any other questions? Did I miss any?
There are not. I think you got them all.
Okay, awesome. Well, I really, really appreciate everyone taking the time for these 3 weeks. It's been a lot of fun. This webinar or this recording will be up very soon. We'll let you know when that's done. And we're always here. Let us know if you need anything else, and we look forward to hopefully seeing you guys at the Tesla giveaway and such December 18th. Have a good one.